Welcome back to the channel. This time we're going to throw everything at it until we make it run and drive.
Hey babe, where's the kitchen sink?
You want me to restart it?
Well, let's start taking out the master cylinder, then we'll replace the wheel cylinders and brakes. So we've got the wrong master cylinder, getting the right one ordered. Go ahead and move on. Start working on the front brakes, replacing the front brakes and wheel cylinders. Okay, so one of the holes right here, this little pin holds the spring and adjuster and all that goes in, was a little too small, and after fighting with it for a while, finally grabbed a Dremel, cleaned it all out, got it to go in, got it in, put it all back together. One thing I will say, when you're doing hub brakes, unless you do them all the time, when you take both sides off, just take the hub off of one side, leave it all put together. So this way you got a good one to go reference back and forth. Make sure which holes all the springs go in. I'm not saying you can't figure it out, but it's nice to have one to reference for, more like a blueprint. All right, finished the brakes up, got them all back together, bearings repacked on there. Went ahead and cleaned the hubs, prepped them, and got them painted up. Okay, so I was putting the master cylinder together, and this little stop sign that came here in the package was adamant about bench bleeding it, not bleeding it when you get it on the car. So I took one of the stock lines that I had replaced already, just cut it in half, only had to change one fitting out, didn't have to worry about taking and bending the new piece and making flaring both ends and stuff. So I'll probably put these to the side and keep them for future projects. Got the master cylinder installed. Got some parts in. Just changing the rear brakes. I got the rear wheel cylinders now. And the bolts, the stock bolts don't work on it. So I'm gonna have to run to town and pick them up. Water pump just came in. Got the power steering pump. So I'm gonna pull this off, see if it'll fit, or make a list, whatever else we need. So when I go to town, I can pick all that up. All right, so I had an issue with the water pump housing and electric water pump. The front face on the water pump was rubbing on the housing. Well, it was doing more than rubbing on the housing. It was just binding up on it. When I loosened the bolts, that's when I realized it was just sitting there rubbing on it. And I already had an issue with the water return coming out on this side on the housing, and the radiator I picked out goes back in over there. So I couldn't find a hose in the first place. So I looked around, found this nice aluminum housing, checked it out, tested it. It works with the electric water pump. It's got a return on the right, so it should take care of our issue. Should be able to find a nice radiator hose. All right, got the pump on, radiator hose is on, water in it, gas tank off the lawnmower. Should be good. It's winter time, won't need that for a while. See if we can fire it up. I don't have the alternator and the power steering pump hooked up yet. Got an issue with the electric water pump being in the way, so I'm gonna have to come back and modify it. I think just put the power steering pump and the alternator all on one belt. Have to find a couple hours I can do that. Oh, also the master cylinder hadn't even been on there a week. It's already starting to rust, so clean that up. I put some paint on it, but see if it'll fire up. So we can sit here and get it idling. All right, old fuel pump wasn't pumping. Pulled that off, we'll put a new one on. Try again. All right, turn her over. See if any of the fuel's leaking. Real quick, make sure nothing's leaking. It's good. I have to fill the bowl up. Okay. Transmission fluid's leaking, and one of the cooler lines. All right, got back on it, put it apart. I think we've got the transmission line fixed, so the leak should be good. Created some spacers for the alternator bracket. Since I've got an electric water pump, I've got an issue with trying to run the belts. So I've created some spacers. I'm getting this spaced out. I need to go to town, get a couple other bolts. I want to get the belt for it. So I've got some twine or a little rope tied up around it. Got it in there so I can try to get the right size belt while I'm in town. Take this with me and just measure it out with it. Let's see if I can go on and sort through the wiring too and try to figure out what goes where. All right, belt's on. Really hope it works. Got to thinking that the OE ones cover half the pulley and we're probably getting a third of the coverage just going around the bottom. So hope that works like it ought to. I'm gonna go ahead and change these plugs and plug wires. I'm pretty sure that's probably why it'll run good for a minute and not another. Would have done all this to begin with, but wanted to make sure we could get it unlocked and make sure it would run and was worth putting the money into now. All right, extending the wires for our extended out alternator. Got those hooked in, got a good handful of wires hooked in, alternator hooked up, maybe the temp gauge hooked up. I don't know. We'll find out when I hook the battery to it, if it starts a fire or not. Tried to find the diagram on the internet, so maybe. Changed this plug wire one I had laying around because it was burnt through. Didn't see any other ones that were burnt through, so maybe that's the only one. Got the power steering all hooked up too. The fitting on the top was just open for, the last 30 some years. So it had a bunch of dirt on it, took it off, cleaned it out. Looked like there was a little in the pump. So I got it hooked up, but I have the return line pointing down there. I'm gonna try to just run some fluid through it to begin with, kind of pump it out, clean it out before I hook it up to the pump. But I think that's it. Let's try to fire it up. Need a little more battery. kind of missing and spitting and popping a little. So I got the plugs and wires. Go ahead and change them. We'll see. See if that fixes it. Hopefully it'll run good and we can time it. Go from there. Just can't help but wonder why the car was taken off the road in the first place. Well, it's got the 440 in it. Now, someone started to put in it. But I don't think the 3-3 blew up. I guess one thing I didn't show y'all is when we were putting the radiator support was kind of beat up. And it's definitely different fenders, hood and all that than the original ones. Different color. I think it was probably in the front end collision. And then someone probably robbed a 3-3 out of it. 3-3, 727 out of it. I don't know. Really should have asked for a Carfax. A little pro tip for you. When you got some of them spark plugs, you're in a hard to reach spot. Like this one here, it's got the steering box in the way, power steering lines and stuff. It's nice to take a little piece of hose. Definitely helps. Take a little piece of hose, put on the end of the spark plug like that. And then once you get it down there and get it in the spot, you can just twist the hose, and it'll get it started without cross-threading it. And plus, sometimes you can't get your hands and stuff on it and hold it into place and sit there and turn it like it needs to be. So to get it started for you, won't cross-thread. Okay, got all the plugs and wires changed. See what that'll do. See if that fixed it. Seems like a good time to go ahead and change the oil. If you remember what it looked like in the first video, nothing but sludge and water. So we fired it up and ran it a good few times now. See what it looks like. I did check the date code to see if it was actually a 68 HP motor or not. Date was 4/1/77. That's just a cruel April Fool's joke right there. And it's only a difference of 100 and carry the 2. About 185 horsepower, 68 to 77. Probably wouldn't even notice that. Yeah, doesn't look bad. I didn't see water starting to come out. Looks good. Smells like good oil. That's got to make it better. Either way, I'll change it. Change the filter. Flush that out. After being locked up, not running for so long. Should be good. Alright, so we ended up changing the plugs, wires, changed the coil out, still wasn't doing very well. Took the thermoquad off, Took the Edelbrock off the 440. We got out the 73 Charger and put on here. Running a lot better. So then fired it up, was warming it up, and the valve covers were leaking like crazy. Really wish the gaskets would have came in before I bolted these on. So I pulled them off, put the new valve cover gaskets on, fired it up, got it warmed up, got it pretty close on timing, good enough for now. Adjusted the Edelbrock carb. The stock accelerator cable doesn't fit on this carburetor, but I plan to swap it to a Holly I've got sitting down there. Just not right now. So we've already warmed it up. Checked the transmission fluid, got her in neutral, pump pumping. Fluid's all topped off. Got the back end jacked up. Gonna fire it up, try to wake the transmission up, go back and forth from reverse to drive for a few times, because this is the one out of the Charger, so it's been sitting a good 20 years. And then we'll see if we can drive it around the yard. He said the accelerator cable and all doesn't work, so I'm gonna just zip tie it to it, since this carburetor isn't staying in here long term. Huh? That's okay. That's even better. You're not here for my face.
Right.
Guess we run down there, steal it off the other 440. Damn near stole everything but the block heads off of the intake. drives. First time since probably 1981. Still got a lot to work on and tune on it. Radiator leaks, change it out to the right carburetor, but next time We can go ahead and replace some panels on it, see if we can get a gas tank in it, proper fuel system. We'll go ahead and put that Holly I got sitting around on her and see if we can make her road ready. Thanks for watching.